professional development with Mr. Drover. Gun half dropping in your pocket when we come over. Keep it live. For development with Mr. Drover. Oh, bun cars.
That overlap between teachers, like, because teachers have their own like battles with their industry, right? Like with there's like we're going on strike, like, right? Well, I'm not going to be here for it, so I just get all the dividends, so whatever. But like, we have the balance, we have that professional obligation that we're always teachers, right? And then, but we're also human beings, right? So I feel like that is another very similarity between our professions, right? We have like a reporting thing, right? Where it's like if a teacher pissed off someone from the public, they can write us up, right? And I'll tell you a story that was told to me at teachers convention. Is the person that deals with these reports for our union and stuff like that, they got a report that, so there's a teacher living in a house and then a neighbor, not a teacher. This teacher, I guess, had their dog, and their dog pooped in the lawn, across, like in the neighbor's lawn. Now, again, pretty annoying, rude thing to do and not clean it up. Like, that's a pretty bad thing. Like, she reported him to the teacher's like qualification standards. And now that's a report that's someone's paying taxes for to go and review and like do all that stuff with the government, right? So I can imagine it's amplified with policing, like
It's little
tenfold.
things like when you, if you meet a new group of people and you're with, a friend, they're like, oh, this is my friend Sarah, this is my friend Jenny, this is my friend Angie, she's a cop. Like, they won't say anything about anyone else, right? Like they don't announce anyone else's profession, but they do, right, for us. And then immediately people, so you're totally right. There's a, like a stereotype or a mold that some people think we all fit in, and we really don't, right? Like, we're all humans just like you and have feelings, and things affect us as well.
That brings me to my next question here, actually, is like, so I have it like police officers, like teachers, tend to be stereotyped by the public, right? So a lot of people see police officers as just patrol officer, right? And can you tell us about, I guess, the different roles? We already talked about that, but we already talked about this, actually, all the different roles and stuff like that you guys were talking about.
The ones that are particularly special to me, and Ange knows all the same people that I do. So we have a couple of different teams where they investigate those who cannot speak for themselves, so children, right? So we have a child abuse team, and we have a team that is a JFO, or joint force operation, between the Calgary Police and the RCMP, called ICE. It's the Integrated Child Exploitation Team, and they investigate anything involving kids and the internet. Use your imagination. So those two particular areas are very interesting to me, because I've seen all the same detectives that are in this ICE team used to be child abuse investigators. And and again, those are just two positions that you can put in for amongst the over 150. But these police officers, day in and day out, they view the most terrible things and they receive the most terrible reports, and they have to make these investigations. They have to conduct their interviews with possible offenders, and they get to see the whole story and actually how it affects everybody. Me in particular, I think that those are the big superheroes of the CPS, and the RCMP and any other police agency in Alberta and in Canada. Anybody that investigates and helps kids are incredible. One guy in particular, his name's Detective Jacobs. We call him Santa because he's got this, like, he used to be young, and he had this dark hair, and actually had a bit of a fro because he was in the drug unit, and so he did all these wild and crazy things there, and then ultimately he got promoted to detective, and now he investigates all these complaints and offenses that I just discussed. And you can see that, cause he has so much energy now, but like, he's like that old dog now. He's just all tired, but he's so passionate about what he does.
Does he have the hat? Like,
Yeah.
okay, I watched that.
Yeah. Oh man, just like the greatest dude. And there's a whole bunch of men and women in those positions that do that stuff. So me in particular, those are actual superheroes from our service.
And I think, like, you talk about the stereotypes of policing and stuff, and I think that's one of the reasons why Brendan and I do the podcast,
Yeah.
right? And why we want to come on here is because we want to humanize the police.
Yep.
We want to show people that, hopefully with some of the stories that we tell with our guests or with ourselves or whatever, they're like, oh, well, that's just a normal person who has a similar background to me or who grew up in a similar, like they see themselves in that role. Because our job ultimately is recruiting, right? Like that's literally our job. We want to promote the profession of policing. We got to fill classes. We need to hire about 165 police officers a year moving forward, which is like a lot, right? Like 4 to 5 recruit classes. And so we need to make our profession seem like we need to market it, right? So by interviewing CPS members who are all very, very different, but all doing the same job with very different roles within the service, we're able to humanize them. And then people can hopefully, our goal is that they watch these podcasts or listen to the podcasts and can relate to that person or relate to at least their story and see themselves in that role. So that's kind of why we try to.
And it's perfect. And the podcast naturally went that way. We have already recorded some amazing ones that are going to be coming out. We have a brand new guest list for the fall that we're going to be doing. And we are very excited because there are simply so many amazing roles that a person can fulfill. Your dream as a police officer can be whatever you want it to be. Perseverance and resiliency. That's all you need.
That's awesome. And because when you're talking like about, especially like with like the child exploitation unit and everything like that, and I kind of like I roll my eyes at the people like that, like the defund the police stuff. I'm like, is that what you're defunding? Like, why would you defund that, right? But I think like a lot of our public don't see like that diversity of roles that you guys have, right? Like so like the basic criticisms that I always hear in like, I guess what you would say like more left wing like spaces, right? Is that it's like, oh, why are they responding to calls? Why not social workers? Why not like other professionals? And I'm like, I really don't, because after like meeting you guys and like doing the police research and stuff like that, those roles are embedded in police, right? And it's crazy that whatever advocacy we're doing is like, so many people don't know that. Like, so when they talk about like, what is it, like ABCAB or whatever, right? Stuff like that. Just like it is much more diversified than dude with a gun.
Yeah.
Right.
We have a lot of units within the CPS where we work hand in hand with a social worker or psychologists or nurses or schools, whatever, right? Like it's partnerships, right? Like we can't do things by ourselves, but what we can do is go into the unknown. Right? We can go into the unknown and make sure that our partners are safe. And a lot of times when someone's having a mental health crisis, they can become violent, right? And that's where we come in, right? So we need to work with those or with those partners. And I mean, you talk about, I have teenage kids, right? Like my kids are in university and high school, and they get very angry because kids have a really strong opinion about the police. Like, your mom's a cop, she's the worst, whatever. I say to my kids, like it doesn't hurt my feelings because I tell them, I'm like, you know what? No matter what, when they can call me whatever names they want. They can have whatever opinion they want. When they call 911, I'm stuck coming.
Yeah, that's that integrity you guys screen for, and that.
It happened to me one time. I actually had to do a death notification where someone's grandma had died, and this was during COVID. So normally we go in and we do it, but it was very awkward. I had to do it on the front step. I was wearing a mask. It was very terrible. I had to tell this person that someone they loved was dead, and it was a very it's a terrible thing to have to do to people. It's traumatizing, right? But the dad called his teenage daughter. And he's like, oh, this police officer is just telling us that grandma's dead, and he's like, do you know where my daughter was this morning? And I said, I don't know. And he said she was at an anti-police rally this morning, and I said, that's okay. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm gonna come and I'm gonna treat you with respect,
100%.
kindness, and compassion. And you should have seen her face. Like, I was just like, this is such a great learning moment from this dad. I just loved it. But but we're coming either way, right?
It's the same as teaching, right? Sometimes it seems like, and I put seems like because I don't know other people, but it's like sometimes like it seems like I care about the student sometimes more than the parent.
Oh yeah.
Has, right? And I like God, parenting is one of the toughest jobs in the world. So I try not to criticize that anywhere I can. But it's like the thing is like a kid, right? Flips me off, swears at me, right? That kid's still my priority.
Yeah.
Like that is like, again, behaviors communication. And it brings me into another question. Does policing and teaching share common goals? And how do you think they work together to achieve those goals?
Well, for sure. Like ultimately, it just comes down to the service piece. So we're here to provide a service. You're there to provide a service. Your job is to educate your students to prepare them for adulthood. And sometimes we have to do some education, but ultimately, like with respect to traffic enforcement, for example, right? So ultimately, they're both going to be service oriented. We have to wear many, many, many hats, just like you guys do, because sometimes you're a teacher, sometimes you're a social worker. You're going to be doing a whole lot of different things. But ultimately, in the end, for you, your objective is to get the student out of school and prepared-ish for the next stage in their life when they're going to have to now break down and learn. And honestly, policing is the same. We have a ton of discretion. We wear a ton of different hats. Ultimately, we just want to do the best we can for the time that we're in. If the situation is exigent, meaning that there's going to be something serious that has to be dealt with now with respect to public safety, well, we're going to deal with that according to the way that we've been trained. When there's a lot of time and space to read and react to stuff, then we'll do the same thing as a teacher. We just want to do the best we can to help people, ultimately, is where.
We were just talking about it, excuse me, right before we started, like how you have to use your teacher voice sometimes,
Yeah.
right? And you have to change your method of communication to get different points across to different people at different times, right? So I think that's a huge thing, is how we have to adjust our communication styles based on the situation in front of us, which you guys would have to do every
De-escalating, right? Or
100%.
Nonstop.
co-regulating, right?
Totally.
Like, oh, this guy can't do it himself. How am I going to co-regulate with him? How am I going to get him like down? Or how do you manipulate the environment? How do you control the situation? I do
Totally.
a whole bunch of stuff.
Policing is all about communication. If it's exigent and you have to do a thing right now, we're going to do that thing right now. And if it happens to be arresting somebody for causing a disturbance, right? If they're standing right in front of you and you're going to be communicating with them, if they're not leaving whatever they're arrestable for, we can talk them into handcuffs. That's not a problem. When it's exigent, then we'll deal with it. But communication is by far the biggest toolkit
Yes.
on our entire body.
Yeah. And that's the best way to go, probably, right? Most of the
Of
time.
course.
Always.
Yeah.
Always.
With all those like extreme circumstances you have, this is the last question before I have like some individual questions for you guys. There's stressors in every profession. Believe me, in teaching, I want to rip my hair out, right? Now, 99% of the time, 98% of the time, I'm not feeling physically threatened.
Yeah.
Especially grade 7s, you just push them all.
They're small.
I could take 5 a year, no or But I think policing has the most exposure to that potential trauma, right? I call it potential trauma because a trauma-inducing event could happen, right? Some people are affected by it, some people aren't. Some people don't realize they are, and then they are. But sub applicants, especially some people I was talking to, just as some people said, "Oh, yeah, I could never do teaching. I could never deal with that, right?
Yeah.
I could never do policing.
Right.
I couldn't handle this." But I try to tell them that there's always supports, right? So in talking to an applicant about trying to get them to go into this high risk profession, because it is high risk at times, right? What types of supports does the CPS have to support officers, right out of the gate?
It's pretty impressive, actually. Like, I do think it's important to come into this profession understanding, like, that you have to have that sort of intestinal fortitude.
Braced.
Yeah, like, like, exactly like you say, people don't call us when they're having a good day.
Yeah.
So you have to know we wear a bulletproof vest and we carry a pistol for a reason, right? So you're going to be put into these stressful situations, and we're going to train you how to do that. So you're going to go into them with a lot of confidence, but understanding that you're going to experience trauma personally, physically, vicariously, emotionally, psychologically, that is very, very important to know what you're getting yourself into. Then once you're in the CPS, we have actually a plethora of resources, whether it's peer support, we have a chaplaincy program, we have psychological services, we have like respectful workplace programs. We have a program called reintegration, where if you do experience some sort of trauma, we're going to bring you back to work in a safe and healthy way at your own pace. So there are actually multiple different resources to assist with mental health and returning to work in a safe and healthy way. And I've used them, you've used them, like we've all used them. So there's even like the stigma. There isn't really. I mean, it gets better and better. We can always improve, but there is less and less stigma to taking care of your mental health.
Like putting a cast on you.
Exactly.
There's not stigma for that. There's should be a stigma
Exactly.
for
Exactly. You're gonna experience trauma.
Yep.
It's going to affect you emotionally.
And a lot.
not even a maybe. It's
Not maybe. It 100% will.
I don't know the source, but they say that, or I read somewhere that the average person that is non-police, so a civilian, is going to experience 1 or 2 traumatic events. So that's dead grandma. That's going to be like one other event that's going to be very difficult to
Yeah.
handle. So police will, patrol officers will average right around just over 700. So like I've lost count of how many suicides I've been to.
Yeah.
And they're all they just happened right now. Some were not completed. Some were completed a week ago.
Yeah.
And so there's all these things that sort of come into play. And that's an easy call for us, right? Not to mention all the violence and all the stuff that goes on out there. But I actually really like what you said, Ange. Like, coming into this job that it's going to happen, and you're going to see that stuff. In fact, you expect to see it. And early on, you want to be the first one out at those calls because that's what you're anticipating. And then if there's any concerns for you along the way, like Anne said, we have these amazing supports to help make you right.
Yeah, I bet the novelty wears off on those like pretty gruesome calls.
And there's some calls where like even like all the old patrol officers, they'll still want to be out there first.
I think we try taking care of ourselves. I think you get smarter,
Yeah,
right? Like
that's a good
when you're junior and you're just on, you kind of want to see everything, and you're like, whoa, like what's about to happen? And then it's like, do I really need to look? I probably don't need to look.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's not going to help me. It's not going to help the investigation. It's not going to do whatever. So
It's like a rubbernecker.
Yeah.
You see people going by an accident, everybody's slowing down and looking. It's a natural thing to
Yeah.
do. I still remember to this day, there's one call I was only on a short while, and like maybe 2 years, I was helping a fellow with a motor vehicle collision, and then a suicide by train came in. I'm like, I'm going to that. Bye. And I took off. And then ultimately you get there and you see what you see. And then the sad part is that if there's any family that's going to be coming, then you get the vicarious trauma. And that's just one call, 2 hours, right? So there's some very dynamic situations that you're going to attend, but you expect to attend them. So that's just what it is.
Having like knowing that those supports are in your back,
Yeah.
do help a lot too.
Yeah.
And having brave people, sorry to interrupt,
No,
but
no.
like having people like Brennan, who's been through some trauma, and like I'm sure you listened to his podcast, like, and
yeah.
and how he uses those resources and comes back in a healthy way, and how he's now an advocate. So he will recognize if someone else is like not doing well, and he'll be like, hey, that was me before. So having other officers also advocate for the programs and resources we have, like, and sort of picking each other up is a really important thing too, I think.
Way to be a mentor, yeah.
Well, you know what? Like, you've seen that movie Sixth Sense. The little kid goes, I see sick people. Well, like, you can tell, I can tell, and when a police officer's probably had a bit too much, it's all in the eyes, and you can see it right then and there. And we've been lucky where Ange is very heavily involved in the reintegration program as well, to be able to help people get back to a healthier place so that they don't make that irreversible decision, because it happens frequently in North America, unfortunately.
Crazy, heavy stuff. But again, I'm glad that, like, again, maybe something the public didn't know, that we have all these supports for police officers, right? Especially when you see those like deer in headlights, and you're just like,
1,000-yard stare, right?
Exactly. And like, it's like, okay, that's a warning. Like let's figure out how to help and support one each other, right? Supporting your own. I had some questions that are applicable, probably both of you, so like jump in, but like I did tailor them, and I think you answered most of these already through just conversation. But I know physical activity has been a big part of your life.
Yeah.
Right. And from fitness to sports, like competing, coaching, whatever. What background do you have in all things fitness? So you said you were a rugby coach. Do you like, what is
Coaches,
coach?
several teams.
So how did you get into that?
Well, I'm actually like crossfield girl. So I started off with the Crossfield Figure Skating Club.
Nice.
So I figure skated here for many years. That was my jam. Like we were in the arena all the time. And then, it was too expensive to pay for when I was like in my 20s. So I'm not going to keep doing that because it's just so expensive.
Yeah.
Shout out to all the moms and dads out there paying for it to put their kids in skating. But so when I was in my 20s, I was looking for something new. I was looking for a new sport because I'd go to the gym and work out and stuff like that, but I wanted a sport to play. So I was looking into like kickboxing and stuff like that. And I actually got into rugby, when I was in my 20s, when I was in Europe. And I was like in Europe. It was my 21st birthday and I was in Europe and I see this, we were in a sports bar and I see this big emblem in the middle of this field with 30 dudes just smashing each other. And the emblem said Tetley in the middle of the field. Tetley is a beer in England, right?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So I was like, what's this? And so this is back in like 98.
I love that.
So I came home from Europe. We were just backpacking, came home from Europe and there's no Google, like there's nothing to do. But this person came into the restaurant I worked at. I was a waitress and was like, oh, we're trying to recruit for a new women's rugby team. And I was like, oh my God. So anyways, that's how I started playing rugby and my family is crazy rugby now. Like I've been playing, like I say, for 25 years now, 26 years. Both my daughters play. I coach both their teams. I got to go and coach right after this podcast. I got to go coach.
One's on Team Canada, just came back from Dublin.
My eldest daughter is on a scholarship at the University of Victoria and she just came back.
I remember when you were like visiting the
Yeah. So she's on a scholarship. So rugby's been big for our family and I just think it's the best sport in the world, especially for women. It promotes camaraderie and it's for all body types and all strengths and all sizes. And it's such a positive, inclusive
There's a role
sport.
for every type.
Literally.
And it's way better than football.
Way better.
That's how my son got interested because Ange was at the rugby union.
Yeah.
And it was rugby sevens or whatever. I don't know anything about
Sevens is a quick game.
Well, but then my son saw all these various different types of bodies. Like, wait a minute, I could do this. And he got fired up.
Yeah, I was a wing. Like, they basically just gave me the ball and said, "Run, Forrest, run." And
Yeah,
that's what
that's my kids. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. And yeah, like I love it way better than football because I've videotaped football games for like plays. And it just stop and go. Whereas rugby, like it's just like you get it at the rock and you're in again, right? You drop it, grab it, go, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, conditioning is crazy. And that brings me to the next thing. I was like, okay, let's all understand that fitness is a good thing to have when you're a police officer.
Of course.
But the traits, the mindsets, like the attributes you acquire through sports, do you utilize that in policing and how does it make you better, if at all, at your job?
Yeah, for sure. We're actually spending a lot of time working with varsity athletes. Like those are the people we want to recruit to become police officers because not only do they have the physical fitness, right? Like I say, this just wearing this uniform and walking around is an extra 25 pounds that we carry around, just walking around. Then you have to like run and like.
Not only do they have this.
Yeah, exactly. So they have obviously the physical traits, but the what they learn from playing sport, right? The mindset that they have, overcoming adversity, failing, losing, and then coming back harder and stronger, right? Working together to accomplish a common goal. Cooperation, communication, even just the values, right? Like I actually did a little bit of research when I was going to present to like the UFC dinos and looking at the Calgary Police Service values were very similar to the UFC dinos, to like World Rugby, to Canada Soccer, whatever. Like there's a lot of similarities in the mission, vision, values that policing has that totally goes across all different sports just because of what you do as a team to accomplish those goals together.
No, that's awesome. And it's completely apparent in your demeanor that you're an athlete.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you can tell. Maybe like an athlete can tell another athlete. This is there.
I want to go back to the figure skating piece because there is no way.
I would like spit on the ice. That would do
ice sort of thing.
Dude, I will tell you right now, whenever Ange's name comes up, within the next 30 seconds, the word beast comes up. So like
Are you the one that says the beast?
No, this is just everybody. Everybody says like, she's a beast. So what that means is she's extremely competitive, extremely hardworking. And if she's competing against you, she will not lose at all, period. So when you say you're a figure skater, I'm trying to imagine you in the little white skates twirling around and being all like,
I love it. I love
That's
now,
step.
like, but like the fitness required for that is obviously quite significant. But because she plays such a violent sport, and I know a lot of her stories, I don't see the nexus at all.
There you go.
She-
You got the beast, but you also got the control.
She's like a
right?
peach. She bruises, but she still outperforms.
There you go.
Oh man.
That's awesome. And I think that the all those similarities, again, you almost drew like a Venn diagram between like the values and stuff of
For sure.
part of a collegiate team or any sort of team with policing, because that's what you guys are. You guys are a team, right?
Absolutely.
And you guys look out for each other just like athletes do, and you guys cooperate, communicate, which is I guess almost like
That's all we do.
of this
Yeah.
podcast is communication. Being it even people don't know it, but even in track, it's communication.
For sure.
If you think about it too, like the nexus between team sports and us is like so Angela was an incident commander on the street for quite a long time. Let's say there's something like a break and enter, bad guy or bad girl or offenders are still in the home or property. We have to set up containments. We all do a particular thing, and we all have to coordinate our actions according to what the other players on the field are doing.
Strategy, right?
Yeah. And then there's one coach that delivers the mission, and then there's communication.
Yeah, you got to work within that hierarchy and that organization, and it works. Awesome. And I got questions for you now. So last time we spoke, you were really working on running, experimenting with different types of workouts. So like, I remember you were trying like intervals and tempo runs and everything like that. How has that progress been, and what have you learned so far?
So first I can say I got all of my sweet running stuff from you mostly, and from a few little sources I looked online. I can say the following. I really enjoyed all of those styles of training to the point where I actually regularly talked, like whoever I talked to, it's like, I want to get better at running. What do I do? Well, what would Mr. Conrad say? I was going to say the other, I did. And so I actually share that information. So just know that like your impact on the team was huge when you were coming to our running with recruiter sessions, because all of those messages get shared. So anyway, the quick and dirty is that I still employ them to this day. I use the same methods on the rower. For example, there's an event called Pulling Together that we're going to be doing. Ange and I are going to be doing the CPS half marathon, now called the Calgary Police Classic. I always want to try and improve. So my time improved quite significantly. I don't want to tell you what it is.
Okay.
Off camera, because you beat me by about 9 minutes. But it was sub 26 minutes,
Awesome.
which was good. I'll just say it was 25 minutes.
That's
20
great. No, that's
and
awesome.
I had this great tempo, and I was slowly building up, and I ran my best time since I was like 30, because I really didn't run for a long time after that.
You're very old now.
I am so old.
You don't look a day over 70. Yeah, you're doing great.
Just don't come up too close. But anyway, I use that for all my other styles of training as well, and to this day I still share it. So I'm a big believer that people come into your life for various different reasons. Your input and your contributions were quite significant. We shared and we talked about all the conversations that you had. Ange has already discussed with you today some of the mantras that you've used. Your impact is very, very big. Not only did you lead within your peer group, but you also led up when it came to
Well, thank you for the kind words. I think it's the teacher in me. You got the bug, right? It's like when you know something and you know like a secret recipe to like improve or whatever, you want to share that with everyone, right? Like I suck at monetizing myself and like marketing, because I just want to share it. Like I don't care how much money I make off of it. Like I have no like intention to do like any sort of like paid coaching, because like if I was at a gym and like a guy was like struggling or whatever, I would help out regardless, right? So I really appreciate it. And it's almost like, again, it's like a little bit of me just like lives on like with that, right? And I really appreciate that. I'm thankful that it was helpful for you, right? And that's
It's
awesome.
very helpful. I feel like if we all just sort of have that mindset that whatever you do, make sure that the people and the person that you're talking to in that moment are the most important people around.
Right.
And then whatever message that comes from you, whatever they get from you, is probably not what you're thinking that they're going to get.
Yeah.
Get a bit of that. And of course, those intangibles. We can do a lot of good that way. It makes people feel good. It makes people feel respected. And then it also inspires them to push. Like for you, with me, I've always really enjoyed doing the hard thing. I love it.
Mhm.
Because it's like being in that dirty, gross place, because
Yeah.
I always want to try and do better. But You had a huge impact on me and everybody.
Well, I'll throw it back at you because this is probably, again, it's one of those things you probably talk to so many people all day that like, if you're anything like me teaching, it's like you forget you say half the things. And then like some person's going to come up to you, oh, I remember when you said this to me. And now I lived with that my entire life or whatever. Right. And you're like, oh, wow, I'm sorry, I can't remember. Yeah. You talked to me about the circle of influence. Right. And ever since we had that conversation, it's like after running with the recruiter, because I was like concerned, I'm like, well, like, I don't know, like I'm going into a culture that I can't completely control. Yep. Like there's going to be bad apples everywhere. There's going to be people I don't agree with. Like, how do I keep my sanity and my morality with all this stuff? Right. And you mentioned the circle of influence to me, and like that literally kept me centered. Even here, I brought it here. I was like, circle of influence. I was like, what can I positively contribute to? And like, how can I make that spread? And then who do I not want in my circle of influence? Stuff like that. And so could you chat about that a bit? Like, what is that circle of influence?
I can tell you where I got that from. So yeah. I ain't that smart. And to be the first one to tell me. Let's say that right now.
Everything's a remake.
Right? But like this just goes back to what I was just saying previously, that the impact that a person can have on you in that moment is going to impact you in a positive way, which you're then going to then share with the world. So back in the day, I was in 2 district, and I'd probably only been on the street for like a year, maybe 18 months. And at the time, Staff Sergeant Richard Heinz, retired as a superintendent with the Calgary Police Service. He came in and he talked about the circle of influence, and it just basically means that we as people and as humans, we get fired up about stuff all the time. Ange and I were even just talking about that generically on our way here today. About work, but at the end of the day, you have a circle. Within that circle, and mine's the size of a Cheerio on purpose. There are certain things that I can control, and I need to put my emotional investment and my time and my energy and everything that I got into that, because the possible outcome can be expected, or there's going to be a plus to come from that, because I know that A plus B will equate to C, with B being that effort and that influence. Outside of that, and on the periphery, it's things that you don't have control over, right? So things that can get you fired up. And in policing, I'll tell you right now, we have a lot of dynamic personalities, and you do get fired up about stuff because we deal with so much stuff. If you do not have a reasonable expectation that you can change that outcome, then that's on the outside of your circle of influence. Right. Talk about it. We all have those moments, right? Ange and I do occasionally, but really we focus on what you can affect and change in a positive way. And that's it. So think about all that energy that we've all been guilty of putting towards something that we cannot change the outcome from, and redirecting that energy into stuff that you can change the outcome for or affect it in a positive way. And that will only lift up you and the people within your circle.
Man,
that's it.
That's amazing.
It's not mine.
No.
Source, Staff Sergeant, now retired Superintendent Richard Heinz. I've never forgotten.
Well, the tens of kids that I've told are going to be like, well, Drover made that up. No. And then one final question before we wrap up. What is your hair routine like? Like, how do you get that? How do you get that?
Yeah. I saw that on there. And Ange will be the first one to tell you she catches me from all these different angles. But I don't know if you ever heard patio lanterns from Kim Mitchell. I'm slowly getting to Kim Mitchell. The hairline blowing back and back. So it's just about angles. And
man, it's the flow. It looks great.
Yeah. Do you know what, though? I actually used to have it a bit longer. And then Tedley or somebody took a photo of me. And I post stuff on LinkedIn, probably too much. So I'd love to share the cool stuff.
Yeah.
And I looked at my hair and I was like, oof, little shade.
No, it was the comment by former Chief Newbell.
Oh, no, but that's what I'm talking about. So I put a thought in there. I was like, a little shaggy, #Scooby-Doo. And he gave it the old thumbs up. And I'm like, that means something. And then the DC, Raj Gill, at the time, he's like, yeah, getting a haircut's a good idea. So I'm like, listen, I'm not that great of an investigator. She will confirm it, but I'll tell you right now, I know something obvious.
Message received.
Yeah. Message received. Either way, it looks good no matter what the length. So before we turn off the cameras, maybe you want to look at that camera, just say where people can get more information to join the CPS, or to get any details of your podcast, where they can find it and stuff like that. And just all around, give yourself a big shout out.
There was some technical difficulties with the cameras and the microphones on this portion of the podcast, and unfortunately we didn't get any usable footage. So you can find all the information to join the CPS or apply to the CPS by going to join.calgarypolice.ca. There you're going to learn more about this rewarding career in policing, all the requirements, the preferred qualifications, and everything you need to know about the process of becoming a police officer. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Till next time, guys, take care.
For tuning in to Professional Development with me, Mr. Drover. I hope you found today's conversation insightful and inspiring. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your fellow educators. You can also connect with me on Instagram or via email to continue the conversation and share your thoughts. Well, until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep making a difference, both inside and outside the classroom. I'll see you in the next episode.